Hey everyone, Damien the Kung Fit Coach here, and today we're going to be looking at what you should be visualizing when you're practicing your martial arts techniques. Now this might seem pretty straightforward, but actually there's a bit more to it than you might think, and there are multiple stages in your training where you want to be visualizing different things. So make sure you stick around to find out what those things are. But first, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and indeed if you find this useful or entertaining, then hit the like button. Let's get into it. So what should we be visualizing when we're practicing our techniques? Well, this is a question that was asked by one of my students that I teach online, and it was such a good one that I thought I had to share it with the rest of you so you can all find out about it too. First thing we want to do when we're initially learning a technique is think about whereabouts in the body we're actually meant to be hitting. That allows us to get the right body position, the right limb position, make sure that we're learning the technique in the right way so we can later on apply it effectively. For example, if we're doing forms, say Lian Huan Chuan Kung Fu form, there's a part in the beginning, we're leaning over and we're punching out, and I'm lent, my arm's down, and that's because I'm attacking the side of the leg here. If I'm too upright or my arm is too far up, I'm attacking a completely different area. The application is gone. It just doesn't apply to what we're trying to do. So in this first stage of learning a move, we want to think, where am I attacking? First question you will ask, where am I attacking? Second thing is then visualize that point. So you can visualize an opponent in front of you, go, right, okay, their leg is there, that's where their upper leg is, so that's where I want to be aiming. So you practice aiming for that upper leg position, imagining where their body is, imagining going for that point. And what this does is it gets that right body position, gets you used to moving in the right way, so eventually it just becomes automatic, and you just go straight into that position and you don't have to think about it at all. We can also apply this to, say, a kick to the leg. We don't want to be kicking too low. We don't want to be kicking too high. Again, we're practicing very different techniques here. The technique you use to kick high, technique you use to kick low, and the technique to, say, kick the outside of the leg, they're all slightly different. Might just be a basic roundhouse, sure, but there's variations. So to make sure that we're kicking the right area, we want to think, okay, here's someone's body, whereabouts is their leg? The leg is where I'm aiming. Right, let's practice kicking that point. And then you get used to kicking that point, so when you want to, you can just go straight for it and don't really have to think about it. And your technique that you're using is appropriate for that body part. All right, the second stage then. So we've already got our body working how we want to. It's automatically going into the right position for, say, our punch or for our kick. The mechanics are there and we don't really have to think about them too much. So in the second stage, we forget their opponent. We don't visualize them anymore, because what we actually want to do is we want to focus on ourselves. Because we want to be thinking, how can I increase the speed? How can I increase my power, my fluidity, just generally make the technique better. So at this point, we're not thinking about, oh, whereabouts should my hand be, whereabouts should I be aiming? It should just be pretty much automatic. So we're focusing on ourselves and thinking, okay, for this punch, have I pulled my shoulders back on the opposite side enough to really get that body twist? For my kick, have I engaged the hips and have I driven through enough? Is my standing foot twisted as far as it should be? We're really thinking critically about the move and how we're doing it. And one of the amazing benefits of this is it means that you can train but also actually improve even when you're just practicing on your own. You don't necessarily need your instructor or your coach to be giving you feedback because you're giving yourself feedback. So it's a really important skill to develop. And a lot of people do get quite good at this, and that's how you get people developing their power, because you need to put the time in by yourself. You can't always have someone there helping you. So stage 2, forget the visualization, just focus on yourself. All right, on to stage 3 then. Now this is an important one and probably one that gets overlooked the most. And now we're going to come back to visualizing our opponent because we're going to think about the application of our moves. So, say with our kick, our opponent isn't just going to stand there. Our opponent's going to move around, we're going to have to move around. So we don't just want to stand here kicking the bag all day from this static position, because that's not how it's ever going to be applied. We want to think, okay, my opponent's going to move, my opponent's going to throw an attack. I don't know, maybe he throws a really big looping shot towards my head. Or actually maybe I can duck under and still throw my kick. Well, why don't we practice that application? Or maybe he's just a little bit out of range. I need to step in and then throw my kick. So you've got to visualize where they are, what they're doing, and how you're going to respond to that. And that can be on a heavy bag or with something like shadow boxing, where you're thinking, oh, I've got to dodge a punch, I've got to counter attack, I've got to move around the ring, I've got to think about where my opponent is and move in relation to them. Counter, dodge, throw the attacks, move in and out, etc. Same goes for our form work as well. When it comes to applying things, we can't just assume they're in the right position and just throw the attack. Maybe they're a bit further away than the sort of distance we've been practicing, so we need to think about stepping and lunging a bit further. Maybe they're a bit closer, we need to try and generate the power in a smaller space. Maybe it's just not appropriate for the position that they're in. So maybe we want to imagine an opponent and we want to try and work some of our form moves into our shadow boxing and then use them in different situations. A really good example of how you go from just imagining where to strike, focusing on yourself to develop power, and then thinking about how you actually apply it is the front hand palm strike. Quite common in Kung Fu. To begin with, you might just think, okay, I need to be striking about body level, this hand's coming back, this hand's coming out, I'm stepping with the front foot, I'm getting comfortable with this, and then eventually it becomes pretty automatic. Then you think about focusing on yourself. Don't care about necessarily the fact that you're striking someone's body, because that movement is already ingrained anyway. You're thinking, how can I get power? Okay, well, I need to pull back a little, I need to coordinate the step properly, I need to really get some oomph in there. Fantastic, you've got the power. A lot of people stop there, and I see this all the time. They don't think about how you then apply it. So you just see people going, I've done my move, it's got power, great, I'm stopping. But then what do you do after that? But also, what do you do before? Because it's not just, that's not going to work. And that's indeed not what the move is. Xiao Hong Chuan is a fantastic example of this. We've got 1, 2, 3 palms. And you see this all the time. Just stepping and attacking. They might still be getting a fair amount of power in it, but that's not how the move is used. You've got to think about what the other hand is doing. Actually, this hand is grabbing something, it's pulling back. So you pull them on to your strike. You get a lot more power, also makes it more usable because you open up a space. Also, with these palm strikes, actually, you don't just want to be hitting straight, you want to be hitting up. See how that makes the bag jump a little bit? Same with someone's body. So you want to pull back with that hand, but first you need to reach forward to grab. Grab, pull back, then have that upwards motion, and then don't stay here. Pull back again. So Xiao Hong Chuan doesn't just want to be 1, 2, 3, because that's not really the application. You need to have that front arm coming through. It's blocking, it's grabbing, making sure that you apply the technique. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm grabbing for someone's hand, I'm pulling through, which part of the body am I hitting? Okay, make sure I'm hitting in the right place and driving up through to the right place. So when we start thinking about the applications, we have to visualize again, and we have to visualize in more detail, no matter what it is that we're trying to apply. So step 1, think about whereabouts in the body you're attacking, get that ingrained. Step 2, forget your opponent, focus on yourself, and make sure that you're getting speed, power, fluidity. Just making the move as perfect as you can. Step 3, try and apply it. Think about how the opponent's going to be moving around, how you can make sure the technique is successful. Bonus step 4, don't visualize at all, actually practice it on someone. do some gentle sparring, do some just drill techniques with each other to actually practice the feeling of doing this against an opponent. Compliant to begin with, just as you get a feel for it, and make sure you don't hurt each other, but definitely after a little while, put some resistance in. Make sure that you're actually applying it against someone that's trying to not let you do it, and then you get a real feel for how you actually use this stuff and what you've got to do to make it work. So that's it. That's what you should be visualizing when you're practicing your martial arts techniques. Hopefully this has been really useful for you guys. If it has, make sure you hit the like button and indeed subscribe so you can get more content in the future. And I'll see you in the next one.